Hey, all, welcome back to Right at the Wire. Well, let's take a look at Preakness 149 and see if we can glean anything from, come up with some conclusions moving forward into the Belmont. I don't know how many of these are going to run in it, but let's take a look at the race and see what happened.
To call his 40th Triple Crown race. So Larry Comas with the call of the Preakness. Larry.
Mystic Dan has moved into line. Here's Imagination and Frankie Dettori for Bob Baffert. They're in.
Let's take a look at the break. And you see right here, they're off pretty cleanly, but Just Steel bears out a little bit to the right. And I think what happened was it ended up pinching back Tuscan Gold a little bit. So he wasn't able to get perhaps up to that more forward position that I think we could all agree was definitely the place to be in this race. And you see Seize the Gray by Just Steel bearing out to the right there. It kind of opened things up and let him just get away cleanly and get right up to right on the engine. And you see Imagination, as we'll see, as we come out here. You see right here, between Imagination and Just Steel, Tuscan Gold really doesn't have anywhere to go. The gap got closed on him by Imagination veering in to the left. I don't want to say there was anything untoward about it, no foul or anything. It's just the way things worked out. And by being a little slow out of the gate, I think it really cost Tuscan Gold a lot of position and ultimately any hopes of factoring in it. And it's just the way it went. We knew that being forwardly placed was where to be, and that's exactly what Seize the Gray did. And really, this was the trip that we thought Imagination was going to get. We thought he'd be on the engine, and I really don't know what was going on with Frankie Dettori here, because you see, looks like he wants to hustle at that point. You know, right there it looked like that he was gonna hustle over and get to the lead and take over, and instead he left him out 4 wide, losing all kinds of ground, and it just was really a big puzzlement to me. You look down at the other runners and you see Catching Freedom trying to be a little more forwardly engaged behind Mystic Dan and Just Steel. And you know, Mystic Dan doing what he does, just saving all the ground on the rail. And they gave him a breather in the first quarter, and I think that really set the tone. But again, Imagination, look at this. Just what's going on there? I've never seen. I just don't get it. I'm sure there was a good reason for it. You don't question a Hall of Famer, but it really seemed to just sap any chance that Imagination would have. You see Tuscan Gold trying to get more engaged into the race on the backstretch, and as well as Catching Freedom, but it was really kind of a surprise that they let him go like this.
Around the far turn they go, and it is still Seize the Gray who leads the way for T. Wayne Lucas, and has been there every.
And you see, at this point, I think Mystic Dan, you know, if he'd had a little more in the tank, maybe could have made a run at it. But again, I think, you know, being pointed to the Derby, there's a natural little bit of a letdown. And again, I'll say it again, I don't think he wants these type of distances, but I thought he ran a good race, Mystic Dan did. And Catching Freedom, I thought had a chance here, but he just didn't have enough. You know, right there, no excuses whatsoever. Just didn't have enough. So you got to give the coach all the credit in the world. I mean, the horse was in good form from the Pat Day Mile, so he rolled him back, keep the form going, got himself another Preakness, number 7. And I think it's safe to say that record will stand as the oldest trainer to win a Triple Crown race. Good job, Coach.
And here a week and a couple of days before Memorial Day wins his 7th Preakness.
So if we're going to grade out the Preakness, I think these are, you know, pretty self-explanatory. 9-horse field, it's pretty easy to see who ran a good race and who didn't. Mugatu and Uncle Heavy, I didn't think the race shape set up well for them at all, and they didn't do any running whatsoever. So they both get a D. I weren't expecting much from them. I wasn't anyway. So I think they probably ran about as was expected. Catching Freedom, I thought, he needed to be more forwardly placed, and he wasn't. He did close well, but it was the race shape just really didn't set up for him. I mean, you had a leader, you had a horse on the lead, unencumbered. He had the cleanest silks, Seize the Gray did, of any of them because he didn't take any mud. And it just was a really tough scenario to the way Catching Freedom runs for him to win this race. But I thought he did run his race, but tactically he needed to be a little closer. Muth obviously is an incomplete. Mystic Dan I thought ran a good race, but you would like to think, though, you have to say this, that he was in the catbird seat. He saved all the ground. And he was in striking distance, and he had every chance to go out and get Seize the Gray. He just didn't do it. So I thought it was a solid race, but I can't give him anything more than that, so he gets a B. Seize the Gray, of course, it's an A. That was the race that we thought Imagination was going to run, really. And Seize the Gray, he took advantage of a field devoid of speed. We thought being on the engine or up near it was the place to be. Had an excellent ride from Jaime Torres, and the coach, he had a horse in good form, and he just, ride him till he bucks you, and so Seize the Gray. You have to give all the props to the horse and the coach. Just Steel, he I think he impeded Tuscan Gold to a degree on the break by bearing out like that. But a little bit, but I don't think it cost Tuscan Gold the race necessarily. He ran okay. He did hang in there for fifth, but let's be honest. You look at that field, and that's really not saying very much. Again, another horse who had every chance and just didn't have it in the tank. And I hope the coach puts this one on the sidelines for a while. I'd like to see him at Saratoga this summer, rested, see what he can do. Tuscan Gold, I think really at the break, not getting quick out of the gate, not being more forwardly placed. He did have a little bit of trouble getting pinched at the beginning, but he really should have been able to rebound from that. I think they were just afraid to use him early and maybe wouldn't have enough left. He did keep on okay, but really, a mediocre, kind of a gentleman C effort. I expected a lot better from Tuscan Gold, but he was okay. And Imagination, I don't get it. Somebody's going to have to explain this to me because I just don't understand what Frankie Dettori was thinking, keeping Imagination that wide. I just don't understand it. He lost all kinds of ground, and he just really never had a chance because of that type of ride. I'm not so sure he was fast enough in any event. The fact that he backed up like he did maybe tells us a little something about that. But Imagination was certainly a disappointment, so for that he gets a D. So, overall, it's great for the coach. This was, again, I'd have to say this was kind of like the Derby. It was a jockey's race. Jaime Torres was smart. He did exactly what you should do in this field to win this race. Get up on the engine and let them catch you. And I think you had a lot of horses who weren't necessarily in their best form. And I think Tuscan Gold was, in good form, but just didn't get the ride. So this was the, the coach pulls off another fast one. This is exactly the kind of field that you can, that's the kind of race that'll win when you have so much vulnerability in this field. So good for him. I don't know that we're going to see any of these in the Belmont. I would be really surprised if we do. Maybe Tuscan Gold, but I don't think Chad Brown could be terribly encouraged by this effort. He certainly, maybe with more distance, I don't know, but closers don't do that great in the Belmont, as we know. So anyway, it was a fun Preakness. It was not the best of fields, and but at least there was more runners than there were last year. And again, a horse taking advantage of a vulnerable field, getting on the front end, just like National Treasure did last year. And the coach steals another one.